Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
It'd feel like to have back-to-back birthdays. I think that's the NFL draft. You get one day of absolute euphoria, and then you wake up the next morning, and you say, we get to do it all over again. It's almost like a mulligan. I love it. Draft day part 2. Wow, what a ride draft day part 1 was. Mikey, take it away.
Yeah, we're going to dive into all that coming up in a sec, but a quick reminder that today's show is brought to you by Epicor. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global visions, Epicor will equip you with the right tools to move forward. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com.
All right, we got to find out where everybody stands on this.
All right, you want to dive right into things. I was say, how you doing, Jay? You weren't here last night. I
No,
want to give a big thank you to everyone who tuned into our live show last night. Record-setting show. More views concurrently than we've ever had in the history of UCSS. More
Kudos to
total
the draft,
live views
baby.
over that 2-hour show than we've ever had in the history of UCSS. So I just want to say thank you guys who tuned in. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys every day, but especially last night. And with the turnout like we had last night, we hope to be able to do some more of those kind of late-night broadcasts in the future. Jay, I know you were working for KYC, but Bull, G, Jason, you guys were here. What was your guys' thoughts on last night's live show from 8 o'clock to 10 p.m. last night?
On the show, I had a great time. I thought it was fun.
It's like a party, right?
Yeah, it flew by. Like, it's always fast. We talked about that before. When we do the show, it flies by.
Yeah.
But it was...
especially because you're covering stuff. Like, just when you dive into one thing, here comes something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly the trade caught a lot of people off guard.
Yeah.
I think I was the only one in favor of the trade.
You're the only one that liked it?
Yeah.
I liked it too.
No, I think I like the trade. I like what they got. I didn't necessarily like the direction they went with the pick after the trade. Trade is fine. Trade, they got a lot of stuff for it.
So your problem is Mason Graham, not the fact that they traded down.
Well, before
not
Jay,
even that, the position.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Jay,
being a
before G
defensive
answers,
lineman yourself.
You were not on a show for one particular day.
Yes.
But we discussed Mason Graham taking a top 30 visit to Cleveland. We're
Right.
going to play you a clip from G. Bush from that show after a quick word from LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means it's time to hire. You need a partner that works just as hard as you do, and that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So last night we did 2 hours. We reacted to everything. But I think we did a bad job, in my opinion, and bad job out of me at giving the fans and the viewers a little insight into Mason Graham as a player. So we're going to do that first. But before we do that, in early April, Mason Graham took a top 30 visit to the Cleveland Browns. And this is what G. Bush had to say on that particular show. G. Bush, Mason Graham is visiting the Browns on a top 30 visit today. You had texted in the group chat last night, if the Browns take Mason Graham with the number 2 pick and/or trade out of number 2 back to then take Mason Graham, you would quit hosting the ultimate Browns.
Yeah, I told him I'm gonna just work under Anthony and do some graphics or something to make up my hours. I can't do it. I wouldn't be any good for anybody. I would just always reset to, I cannot believe they took a D tackle. Like, no, we cannot do this. And by the way, look, they're doing their due diligence. Yes. I mean, they're not gonna look. They got to invite these guys in. They got to do some work on these dudes. You know, that's what the scouting department does. They scout thousands of people, and they only draft 3 or 4 of them, and they got a Rolodex full of information on everybody. And there's a lot of it. But look, don't get it twisted.
3 weeks later.
The Cleveland Browns select Mason Graham.
They did it! They took a fat guy!
Michigan.
They took a fat guy! Here it is!
Speculation about all of the surprises we may get outside of the trade.
Oh my God.
Players we were expecting. Mason Graham is a 2-time All-American.
Oh, Mike Greenberg's voice makes me want to stick needles in my ears. I gotta mute this. That Browns have done it. Mason Graham, they took a defensive tackle.
So, G.
And he's got the same look on his face 12
He
hours
hasn't
later.
smiled since. Have you breathed? Have you taken any breaths? Now, you're just kidding. You're not going to resign.
That's why Tom from Tom and Jerry is dead on your hat.
I literally, like, I tried to reach out to Steve. He won't take my call. I've been trying to, I was trying to get about 2 weeks in, like, last night, bro. Like, this is wild, bro.
Well, we're going to get some banging graphics. I know that.
Yeah, man, my graphics game gonna be crazy.
Coming up, we're going to have some great graphics.
Dang, man.
So, G.
Spellings will be correct.
Everything, bro.
It actually made
Sorry,
me
Ant.
over what me and Ant do sometimes. But we'll talk about the trade in a sec. But the actual player, Mason Graham, the player, Jay, let's start with you because you weren't here last night. What are the Browns getting, and how do you like the fit? You were on the Abdul Carter train.
I was.
With the defensive lineman,
Yeah.
not the guy you wanted, but a defensive lineman. What are your thoughts on Mason
Well,
Graham, specifically at 5?
Can I
How he
talk
fits
about the
into line?
trade? Because I haven't actually mentioned other than that I liked it.
Well, we're going to get to the whole trade
correct.
after. I just want to focus on Mason Graham
We
before we
told-
dive into the trade because it's going to derail
Okay.
everything. Mason
Okay.
Graham first, then the trade. But Mason
right.
Graham, the player.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it. I understand it's not the sexy pick. It's not glitzy. It's not shiny. It's not glittery. That's fine. Look at it from this perspective. What you're doing is you're unlocking even more potential from the best defensive player in the game right now, or one of the best defensive players in the game right now. I was pouring through the scouting reports, even more so last night after the draft, to see exactly what the consensus is on this guy. He destroys one-on-ones. When he gets single coverage, he destroys those blocks. Now, granted, this could be a difference between college football and the NFL, but he played high-level college football. If he was coming from Marshall and he was destroying those blocks, I'd be a little concerned. The Browns desperately need the cheat code to unlock even more production out of Myles Garrett. And I think this does that. In the past, they've tried to address the line, and they've done it with mid guys that we at the time talk ourselves into, oh, look out, here we go, you can't double team Myles anymore. Well, those guys all ended up being exactly who we thought they were. And none of them were major difference makers. I think this guy has the potential to be a major difference maker. I love that he's a former wrestler. We know how important that can be during the battles up front. He's strong from the lower half down. And look, might he flop? Yeah, absolutely. But every player has a fear factor built into them. And again, I know we're separating the trade from the player, but one of the reasons I like it so much is because of the capital that we gained for next year. We go into next year's draft, a draft everybody agrees is going to be much richer at quarterback, with tools to move up if that's what we choose to do. So, and I know that's all I'll say on the trade. I just think that it's hard for me to talk about how much I like the move without adding the most important element to it.
I totally understand that. We didn't give him any time last night. As
Right.
the player,
We get it.
so
I would have liked Abdul Carter a lot more. But then next year we would not have 2 first-round draft picks, and we also wouldn't have 2 in the first 4 today.
Yeah.
Like,
And
we
we'll talk
gained
about-
capital out of it, and that's very important.
G, Mason Graham, the player, real quick. We'll go around the horn, then we'll get into the trade because I know that's what everyone wants to hear about. But Mason Graham, the player, G, how does he fit next to Myles Garrett?
All right, I need everybody to listen to the words coming out of my mouth. Contrary to popular belief, I played defensive lineman for half my life, and all I do is watch defensive line tape. So for those who he doesn't know what he's saying or talking about, you come block me. Now, let's start. Mason Graham, let's start by this. He's a damn good football player. Let's start with the fact that he has a great hand placement. Start with the fact that his redirect is lightning quick. Redirect means if the play is going opposite and he's moving one way, he's able to put his feet in the ground without taking false steps and get back down the line of scrimmage and make tackles. I think he does a really great job. You can tell he's a wrestler. He has when he is focused, he has a really good low center of gravity. He can hunker down. He takes on double teams well. He disengages very well for a defensive lineman, especially an undersized defensive lineman. And you have to do that. You can tell he has a wrestling background because he's able to use his hands. You can see it right there. The swim move is quick. He does not have a bunch of predetermined pass rush moves, But what he does have is the ability to get to one edge, use a rip move, use his overarm move. He push-pull. He can do all those different things. And because he is quick, he gives people in the interior line a problem because he's getting to an edge. One of the reasons that you want to edge a guy that's in the middle pass rushing is because it's hard to run away from disruptive people up front. When you look at it in terms of what Jim Schwartz wants to do, this is exactly what Jim Schwartz like. Dalvin Tomlinson is more of a regular nose tackle. He's not a guy that's going to be upfield. This guy is more of that. You saw what he did with Mike Hall Jr. He's another one of those guys, more athletic, but has the same type of mentality in terms of pressure in the pocket, cave in the pocket, and getting quarterbacks off their spot. He's a good football player. So I just want y'all to understand that as we're talking here, so you understand where we're coming from. It's not about Mason Graham. Mason Graham, is playing for the Browns. I hope he's going to be a great pick, a great addition to the Browns. The Browns' defensive line is better with Mason Graham now that they drafted him. So for him as a player, he's a very good player. If you ask me his downsides, I think he is limited a bit as a pass rusher. You saw his production at Michigan over the 3 years. I believe it was nine sacks over the 3 years. He does provide that pressure, but if I want to I would question and see whether or not that is a reach at 5. At 5, you're looking for impact type player, Pro Bowl day 1, day 2 type player, and a guy that's going to be somebody who you say he's the best defensive tackle in the league. That's what you want out of 5. Some would argue you don't reach that high, but the Browns took him. He does have some strong traits, and I do think the Browns defensive line is a little bit better.
Before Bowler Jason chimes in, I do want to mention, since 2010, 4 defensive tackles before Mason Graham had been drafted in the top 5. Marcel Darius, Quinnen Williams, Ndamukong Suh, and Gerald McCoy. Those were the only 4 before last night. All 4 made at least one All-Pro team in their career. So that's kind of the bar when you draft a defensive tackle that high. He has to turn into, at least at some point in his career, a top 2, 3, 4 defensive tackle in football. Bull, Jason, what do you think on Mason Graham?
Well, if he hits that level, it's a great pick.
Yep.
And nobody knows defensive tackle play better than G. And I'll defer to him on technique and strengths and weaknesses and hand placement and all that stuff. The only thing I would say about the pick is he's the best player on a damn good defense. And a 2-time All-American. Dustin said last night there aren't many guys ever that are 2-time All-Americans. This is a really, really, really good football player. It strengthens their defense. You rotate guys. The best defenses are constantly bringing in new waves of guys and keeping guys fresh up front because of how physically taxing it is. So I don't have an issue overall with the pick at all. This is where he was projected to go. I understand the sexiness of wanting Travis Hunter. I totally get it. And this has a chance to blow up on them and look really, really bad that you passed on Travis Hunter and gave him away to take a defensive tackle. And the last time they took a defensive tackle this high, it was Gerard Warren, and it wasn't a great pick. But that has absolutely no bearing on Mason Graham and what kind of player he's going to be. So ultimately, I'm fine with it. I'm with Jay that I thought the trade was an absolute home run. They got a war chest of picks for this, and for that reason, and it just felt, we were joking last night, you wanted a PlayStation, you got socks and underwear. Well, you know what? In December and January, I'm pretty thankful for socks and underwear in Cleveland. So
can we call it a coat instead of socks and underwear? Socks and underwear is like an undrafted free agent. Now, I think a coat in the winter might be a first-round pick.
If the socks and underwear is Polo Ralph Lauren, and you get you some, like, you got an opportunity to do
designer underwear.
I need designer underwear later today. Give me them designer drawers.
It might be Hanes with holes in them. So that's what it could be. Yeah.
God, I hope not.
So, as Jason said, G broke down Mason Graham. I can't break down Mason Graham. G thinks he's going to be a good player. He's probably going to be a good player. Would I have rather them drafted an impact offensive player? 100%. They decided not to go in that direction even after they passed on Travis Hunter. They could have taken the top running back on the board. They could have taken the top tight end on the board. In fact, there were 2 tight ends that went in the first, half of the first round that a lot of people think are going to be great players. In the long run, we'll see. Obviously, we'll tie into the trade for a minute. I do think, thinking back to last night, I made too much of his lack of sack production in college because that doesn't always matter for a defensive tackle. But there's no
Isn't
doubt.
he better against the run than the pass anyhow?
Yes, he's a better run stuffer than
That's
I
what
don't
I've
know,
always.
but-
That's what I've always thought
I mean,
about him.
to me, if you're drafting a guy at 5 as a defensive tackle, he better be a pass rusher.
Well, you need run stoppers too, especially this defense.
Well, yeah, but you don't draft run stoppers at the 5th pick in the draft.
This is
Well,
where he was.
it's been done
projected to go.
before. And
I
worked
don't.
out.
This wasn't a
Projected to
reach.
go is meaningless.
But this was. It's not like the. It's not like
I
the
didn't
Browns,
say it was a reach.
No,
We don't
but
know if it's a
I'm
reach
just
or not.
saying the Browns
Yeah.
aren't out there browsing doing things that nobody else would do. Everyone in the league had him and around this spot.
Who?
By the
Who's
way,
everyone in the
all
league?
mock drafts
Well, no,
leading
his-
up had
Mock drafts don't matter. We talk about mock drafts as if
Well,
they
you
matter.
asked
They
Two.
had Hunter going 2 and Graham going 5 to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
They literally just switched
Who
the
did?
names of the teams. Brugler, McShay,
Oh,
Kite.
Do any of them work in the league?
But
Are any of them? Are any of
none
them?
of the guys
I
that
think
do
Shea
mock
worked.
drafts?
Well, that's
work
what
in
I'm
the league.
saying.
all of the.
I
Go
never
back
said
and-
Graham was. I
Go
didn't
back
say
and
he's
look at
a
all the
reach.
mock draft. For the
Yeah.
most part, there's always a couple guys that fall. For
Yeah.
the most part, they're generally in the right range.
His grade, he graded out as a maybe not a top 5 pick, but certainly a top 10 pick. And some people had him graded out as a
Yes.
top
I'm not saying he's a reach. I'm just saying guys that do mock drafts for a living don't prove he's not a reach.
No, but that's
That's
all
all
we
I'm
have, Bull.
Well, yeah,
Right
that's
now,
fair.
We don't have any
That's
results.
fair.
And I agree with you. Like, the biggest thing that I want to make clear today,
Yeah.
we're not going to know if this was a good draft until 2-3 years from now.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
just not.
And we're not going to know if
Nothing
the
we say today is going to solidify
right.
that.
And while Mike, can we get to the trade now?
Yeah, let me do the read. We'll get to
All
the
right.
trade, and we'll dive into all the minutia that involved trading back from 2 to 5, because that's, I know, the biggest topic of conversation. But first, the trade talk today is brought to you guys by Buckeye State Credit Union. If you're unfamiliar with them, let me introduce you to the financial friend you didn't know you needed until right now. Buckeye State Credit Union is a local brand that offers a wide range of products, from checking accounts to home equity lines of credit and auto loans. They have some of the lowest rates around and are committed to serving Northeast Ohio. The Cleveland location is in Shaker Heights, but there are 5 other brick and mortar locations across the state. Buckeye State Credit Union is here to help make your life easier. They make banking more convenient, always putting the customer first, so you leave feeling cared for, valued, and respected. Connect, simplify, and adapt. Those are the core values that make Buckeye State Credit Union the right choice for you. Head to buckeyecu.org for more information. Buckeye State Credit Union, your money simplified.
By the way, I didn't listen to my own. Every year I say, and every year I think a lot of us say, don't listen to the talk before the draft. It's meaningless.
Yeah.
And we all convinced ourselves that we were going to draft Travis Hunter based on mock drafts and rumors. And all along, Andrew Berry, we should have known he was talking too much about Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
We
It was
should
a
have known he was
smokescreen.
trying to build
But I
a.
tell you, when their lips are moving, they're lying.
But
Yeah.
well, here's what's interesting. So Mike Silver was in the Jaguars draft room last night.
Yeah.
yeah.
One of our writers at the Athletic, and he flat out wrote, the trade was finalized on April 7th.
Yeah.
So, but when Barry
Well, contingent that Cam went number 1.
Yes, but they had the framework of the deal done April 7th, and then it was a matter of the owners signing off on it, which obviously both did, and the Browns were going to wait till they were on the clock to make the trade because they wanted to make sure that something weird didn't happen and Cam
Right.
Ward wasn't available. Okay, fine. Well, the owners' meetings is when the smoke really started picking up. Because remember, I came on with you guys and said
It's Hunter.
there's 2 things I feel pretty good about right now. The Browns are going Travis Hunter, and Jackson Dart's going to go by middle to late teens. Now, where'd Dart go? 20?
Yeah.
20-something.
Yeah.
25.
25. Okay, so I was a
The
little
only
bit
other
off on
quarterback
that.
taken, right, in the first round?
Yeah, so I was a little off on that. But so the Hunter smoke started prior to April 7th.
Yeah.
So when was the first call made? I don't know.
Right.
But my guess is, I do think if they didn't get the package that they wanted, they were going to take Travis Hunter.
Agreed.
I
But
think they would have too.
But part of the reason he hyped him up so much these last few weeks was to try to increase the price.
But the trade was
100%.
But the trade was already done.
Yeah, it was done, and nothing, obviously, it was contingent that Cam Ward went number 1.
Yeah.
We talked about that. To me, the interesting thing about all this, Jason, and I don't know if you find this as fascinating as I do, it didn't get out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know as well as
it
I
always
do
gets
that
out.
someone in either the Jags organization or the Browns organization, loving to flex his or her muscle, would pick up a phone and say, listen, it's happening.
So I
it's
think
done.
I think that the more people that know is when it gets out.
Right, they kept a close circle.
I don't know this. My guess is it was a very, very tight ring of people.
I bet it was.
In both organizations who knew about this.
Until yesterday, of course.
Until yesterday.
In the morning at some point.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even until last night, because it didn't really start leaking out till around 5 o'clock.
Well, within the last couple of days, the Browns are listening and they're not hanging up the phone. That all started within the last couple of days.
Right.
And maybe that was just to try and flesh out any last-minute offer besides Jacksonville.
Well, I think that was a result of last-minute offers. I think other teams that were talking to the Browns were talking to the media saying, the Browns are dealing it too, man. We're having conversations.
I think Barry put, rightfully so, a very high price tag on 2 and said, if you want to come meet this, you can have him. If you don't, we'll take him for ourselves.
I personally was thrilled with what they got for it.
I was
they
too.
moved down 3 spots.
I said last night it was a robbery.
And they passed on 2 potentially generational players. However, again, in 3 or 4 years, we'll have a better idea of what Abdul Carter is, of what Travis Hunter is. But if you just look at where they slid, and
but
what
it's a
they
big
picked
3
up,
spots. It is a big 3.
Listen, when you go 2 to 5, that's a big difference.
Yes.
If in your organization you believe that the player that will still be there at 5 can help you close to as much as the player that was there at 2, and you're picking up the capital that they picked up. When I saw what they got for it, because I'll be honest, I didn't love trading out of the pick, just the idea of it.
Yeah.
I had no idea they were going to come away with this much.
Yeah.
They get 2 of the top 4 today. Now, if you want shiny and glamorous, today it's possible that they get Jalen Milroe and Travion Henderson. How are we thinking about the draft now?
I'd be shocked if they draft a quarterback today.
I would too. I would too, Bull. But
I push back on the characterization that anything that is shiny is bad.
It's not.
I didn't say that.
I'm saying there's a perception that when you go not shiny, it's solid A+, and there's no risk.
Like it's less risk.
But when it's shiny, it's like, oh well, we gotta wait.
There are people that feel that way.
There are. I don't think anybody in this panel is saying that.
Usually, not always. Usually, when this organization goes shiny,
it blows up in their face.
Johnny
That's
Manziel,
the track record. By the way,
Deshaun Watson.
I don't know that. I reached out to these guys just because I thought our viewers would want to hear what they thought. Leroy Horde, a Michigan guy. I was really anxious to hear what he had to say. I like getting 2 more picks. Only 2 quarterbacks have been taken. Get some help up front. You can possibly wait until next year for a quarterback, and I think that's very much in play. Very, very much in play.
That's why they made the trade. They made the trade to find a quarterback.
This is what it felt like to me. It felt to me like they took a lot of the emotion and a lot of the fan noise out of this equation.
Which they should.
And I'm glad they did that because, look, everybody, and it's proven by what happened last night. History will tell us if they were right. But everybody that observes the league has been saying for 6 months, this isn't the class to get your quarterback.
Yes.
And they actually folled that logic.
Every team that needed a quarterback passed.
That's
on
right.
all of these guys.
And that tells you something because there were a lot of teams, there always are, 8 to 10 teams every year that you could say go into the draft and they look.
And yet there's no clear top pick next year, a quarterback.
No, well,
we still have a full college season.
I'm saying.
The projection.
But wait. No, you can't say that because Andrew Berry made that trade for next year. So if that was a factor in him doing that, you can't say, well, we got a year. You don't know who it's going to be.
Wait. Bull, what is your plan for them to get a quarterback? You shit all over everybody's plan.
Yeah.
I gave you a plan. I've told you for months, get an extra 1. You can have the capital to move up. You've never given me your plan. What is your plan for the Browns to get a quarterback?
Well, I understand what you're saying. There is no clear plan to get a quarterback,
there is
right?
Now.
There isn't.
Yes, there is.
There is?
Yes.
Well, what if they end up with the 7th and 10th picks in the draft and there's only 2 quarterbacks?
Then you package them together and you move up.
What if the top 2 teams both need quarterbacks?
Bull, entirely possible.
The Vikings moved up to get J.J. McCarthy. The Panthers moved up to get Bryce Young. The Jets moved up to get Sam Darnold. You act like no team has ever moved up.
I haven't said that. But you act the opposite way as if it's a guarantee they're going to be able to move up.
But Bull, I will say this.
You can only trade up if the team is willing.
But if you look at law of averages, Bull, in all likelihood, does anybody foresee us having this bad of a class at quarterback next year? I don't.
No.
This is the worst quarterback class since when?
So these are the
the Kenny Pickett year.
Okay.
That's not that long ago.
No, but it's long enough ago. They don't happen every year.
Here you go.
I did not put Arch Manning on there. Arch Manning could technically be in that. And it's
he's the crown jewel of the draft.
There you go.
He
Which
is the
one you
crown.
like?
I don't like any of those guys. But here's the thing: if you would have asked me last year, if you would have asked me last year at this time who I liked, I'll guarantee you I wouldn't have told you Cam Ward. I'll guarantee you I wouldn't have said Shedeur Sanders. So somebody's going to emerge.
I will admit, Nussmeier could be the top quarterback in this draft a year from now.
Yeah.
Drew Aller could be the top quarterback.
We don't know.
Hey, Drew Aller, listen, unless Drew Aller can throw the football better than he did against Notre Dame, he's not going nowhere.
Who's to say he's not going to? This is
all
Joe Burrow. To be fair, Joe Burrow wouldn't have been the top pick a year
No,
earlier.
he would not have been.
So I get it. I think what hangs over all of this, Jason, is my lack of trust in Andrew Berry getting it right.
That's fair.
Different conversation.
That is a different conversation.
But you have to put yourself in position.
So here's
right, but the Browns have put themselves in position before, and they've fallen on their face every time.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Here's where people on the other aisle stand when people say, here's what this plan is to get the quarterback.
Yeah.
We're acting like there is some clear cut, this is a great way to get a quarterback. No, there could be two quarterbacks in the draft. Two teams can like those quarterbacks, and you don't trade Arch Manning. No one's trading us Arch Manning. Let's get that out of our mind.
What if Arch Manning isn't the top pick?
Okay, well, listen. All I'm saying is, when we talk about quarterbacks next year, let's just be. Can we be real and stop acting like be fake? We're talking about Arch Manning. Can we say that?
Well, he's in part of the conversation.
That's what people think.
That is what we're talking about when they say quarterback next year. Just the same way they did with Andrew Luck.
There's no guarantee he'll even come out.
But that's correct. So what I'm saying to you is, this is not a full-blown anything. This is huge.
Nothing is.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a huge risk to say we are passing on. I'm talking about not Travis Hunter. You passed on Abdul Carter too. Like, it's not just people think it's just Travis Hunter. No, I was upset that they passed on not only Travis Hunter, but Ashton Genty and Abdul Carter.
But here's the thing: the entire league just told you last night, none of these guys were any good. Now, were they right or wrong? We'll find out.
I'm not talking about quarterback.
But I am, because we all agree, it doesn't matter until they get a quarterback. There was no quarterback for them worth going to get.
Agree with.
So what do you want them to do?
Especially if it proves out, and it did.
I agree
that they
with
can get
you.
him in the second round if they want.
I will grant you this, Jason. I agree with you that what they did last night, forget who they drafted at 5, what they did by making the trade gives them a better chance, obviously a significantly better chance of getting a quarterback next year. Now, obviously, it's not a guarantee there's going to be one worth trading for. Obviously, it's not a guarantee that they're going to be able to make a trade if there is one. But obviously, it helps their chances next year. The question is, will they use that second round pick they got, tonight, and will they use that first round pick? And was it even necessary? Like, we'll find out. There's a chance that the Browns are going to be bad enough that they didn't need to trade up for a quarterback next year.
And there's a chance the Jaguars could suck too, and they have 2 top 10 picks next year.
That is possible.
That is true.
There's also a
Time will
possibility
tell.
they
We
could
won't
win
know.
the AFC South.
We won't know.
The Jags have been all over the place.
In a vacuum, this was a smart trade.
I agree with
but
that.
But the Andrew Berry part of this, and maybe this is not fair, because I've said
that is fair to bring
but
that
I've said many times before, if you just assume Andrew Berry's going to screw it up, then it doesn't matter what he does.
No. Your point is he doesn't deserve any friendship equity here.
Right.
And he doesn't get any from me, and I'm exactly where you guys are. In theory, the chess move to trade in a piece and get these other pieces can only be viewed as smart because you have collateral. You don't need one player, by the way.
You have to get a seat at the table.
Yes, you need to be in the conversation.
Play the hand.
And when you're 3-14, you don't need just one position. You don't need just. Well, I think we got a pretty good wide receiver. We don't need just one good wide receiver. We've got one. We don't need just one good defensive end or hybrid. We've got one. We've got needs all over the board.
Sure.
And this move allows us to plug some of those needs with more bodies.
Here's the only problem I have. I push back on the fact that one of the major needs for the Cleveland Browns was defensive tackle. And that's why I talked about not specifically Mason Graham. But when you're talking about a position of need, the Cleveland Browns have placed more assets and more capital and more money up front than any other position.
They have. Now, it's interesting that you brought that up. And here's where I want to go with this. What was the Philadelphia Eagles blueprint starting about 5 years ago?
I push back on that again, Jay.
No, but
Jay, the Philadelphia Eagles have done, and this is, they drafted someone in the top 10 at receiver. They made A.J. Brown one of the highest paid receivers and went out and traded
Of
for
course
him.
they did, and they got a great running back.
They
But-
went out and got Saquon Barkley, who people gave him money, the number one on board, and they went and drafted Jalen Hurts and developed him at quarterback.
But they had
You're right,
built their
you're right.
lines first.
And,
yes.
and G, you can't
first
ignore
and then
those
added those
positions.
pieces later.
But I think the blueprint currently, and it changes because the league changes, but it is a copycat league. And right now, the blueprint is you build inside out.
And by
the league is talking about making a play illegal because the Eagles have so built a dominant front line, and they just come up with Super
Here's a really
Bowl.
important thing that G said. What did you say first? They had more impressing needs than defensive line, right?
Yes.
What if the Browns took the best player available, which is what every team says they're supposed to do?
They just took Ashton Genty.
They took the best player available.
No, they should have. Ashton Genty is
Is there that big a difference between Genty and Travion Henderson?
This is so. Hold on.
Because they can get Henderson today.
Hold on. This is where I'm going with it. They have an opportunity to salvage some of this because there are available players that if you said, give me Travion Henderson. Okay, I like that.
I don't think there's anything to salvage.
Okay, I like that.
I don't
What is
either.
there to salvage?
I don't either.
What I'm saying,
It's not like that they stepped in it yesterday.
no, I'm not saying what I mean by salvage is the Cleveland Browns. One of the things that we're doing, and I just don't understand it, is we are factually turning a blind eye to the worst offense in the league. And so my thing is, when are you going to address it? You got your defensive tackle. You don't like the quarterbacks. You better damn well address that part of your offense.
Two things. One, I think they're going to do that today. And two, I also wonder if it's by design. Because, again, they're trying to get a
lose
quarterback
again
next year. It's by design not to address the offense.
I am not adhering to that. That is malpractice. The Cleveland Browns.
I co-sign that.
I am not. Listen,
But they will today.
And I do not care. 1-31 is still in my rear view. I am not going to go into these drafts and say, let's keep Kenny Pickett at quarterback, not draft offensive players, and expect people to pay their money to come see that crap. That's BS.
Gee, I
But
had
they
a
will,
topic written
unfortunately.
down
That's BS.
that we'll do later. I didn't want to do it today because I think it's important to see what they do in rounds 2, 3, 4,
I'm
5,
waiting.
and 6. But I have a topic that we will unveil Monday if I feel necessary, asking, are the Browns gentlemen's punting on 2025?
Yeah, I hope
Of
not.
course they are.
I hope
I'm
not.
there. I just did the topic for you.
Done. I
Yeah.
hope not because I'm with you. I don't do
But
that.
here-
However, if that's what happens, there's a silver lining. One thing quickly. The Browns are in the situation they're in right now because they made a grave miscalculation.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the worst in the history of the league.
Yeah.
They gave up 3 first-round draft picks for a guy who can't get on the field and stay on the field. And when he is on the field, he's horrible. So in that process of over the last 3 years, you have gone and you have been an observer on the first day of the draft. What they have done this year, they will have 3 picks in the top 36. 3. Based on coming off, what happens when you go 3 years without having a first-round pick? You're 3-14. Last night, they made a move to gain more capital to get themselves out of the Deshaun Watson hole they've dug for themselves.
And by the way, the Deshaun Watson hole, blinds you for everything else. Not only did they screw that up, even though at the time I know you weren't in favor of it, but we were, and most people were. They also did a terrible job drafting the last
100%.
few years.
Yes, they did.
And that's to your point earlier of you don't trust Andrew Berry.
Right.
Like, I like the maneuvering behind the scenes. What I haven't liked, and what you still have to go a long way to prove to me, I don't like the players you
gotta pick the right
select.
guys.
That's right.
And that's a
Totally
big part
fair.
of this.
Yeah, and think about this, guys. Gee, 1 second. Think about this. If we loved Andrew Berry and we trusted him, let's say we had Howie Roseman as our GM.
Be a home run.
We
Yeah.
would have all loved that trade last night, 100%, because we trust the guy making the picks.
Yeah.
But because we don't feel that way about the GM, it's hard to buy all in. Even though what Jason is saying, if you take your emotions out of it and you just use your brain, it's a smart trade. Of course, it's a smart trade. It makes a lot of sense. It helped. You can't win without a quarterback.
That's only step one of
gives
it,
you a
though.
chance. But
Now you got to go.
now I keep thinking, well, okay, Andrew Berry's going to F it up. He's going to find a way to F it
Well,
up
Jay,
next
well, if
year.
he does, bye-bye. That's
Yeah.
it.
Jay, you weren't on last night. I want to reiterate something we talked about last night to put a bow on this before we look towards ahead towards day 2. These are all the offensive players the Browns have drafted under Andrew Berry. I will give you the player and the round.
Now, again, to be fair, all but one were drafted 3rd round or later.
I'm
to
just
be
saying,
fair.
these
But
are the
go ahead.
players
Well,
offensively.
in part
Yeah.
because of a trade he
Yes,
made.
yes.
So you got to own that
Yes,
too.
yes.
And in theory, I'm giving you this with the realization that they intentionally passed on Travis. They traded out of a spot where Travis Hunter could have been the pick.
Right.
Yeah.
These are the offensive
By the way,
players.
who plays a position that they notoriously screw up.
And,
Yes.
and I want to ask that as the wrap-up. But these are the offensive players since 2020 that have been drafted under the Andrew Berry regime. Jed Wills, first-round pick.
Bust.
Harrison Bryant, fourth-round pick.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nick Harris, fifth-round pick.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, sixth-round pick.
He had
the
a
way,
moment
another
in 1
Michigan
year,
guy,
but
another
For
Michigan
For a
guy.
6th-round pick, it wasn't bad, but I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah,
2021, Anthony Schwartz,
Stop.
out of
Bust.
football has been
James
for 3
Hudson,
years.
Bust.
Bust.
Demetric Felton.
Nothing.
Who? Yeah.
So 3 players,
Yeah.
nothing from that draft.
Yep.
David Bell, third
Nope.
round.
No.
Nothing.
Miss.
Cade York, fourth round.
Come on,
Miss.
laughable.
Jerome Ford, fifth round.
Nice
miss.
pick.
I'm putting him as a miss.
he's
I'm at 5th round. He's a
he's a guy.
backup.
I guess.
a
I guess. Yeah.
It's fine.
He's a
guy.
It's fine.
Yeah.
He's a guy.
Yeah.
Sixth round, Michael Woods.
He's a
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nope.
Third round, Cedric Tillman.
We haven't seen him in weeks.
I'll still give him a chance, but
I
as
gotta
of now,
tell
it
you,
looks like a loss.
going through this exercise, it's stunning
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Fourth
This
round.
man still has a job.
Fourth round, DeJuan Jones.
Come on, man.
Well, we don't
Potential.
know.
Listen,
we don't know.
That looks like his best pick, and that
the
guy's got
best
injury
one,
issues.
and it's a 4th rounder.
Yeah.
And
Can he stay healthy?
He
Yeah.
has to start this year.
Yeah.
Fifth round, DTR.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Sixth round, Luke Whippler.
Hasn't played.
I don't know.
Fifth round, Jamari Thrash.
Come
Hasn't
get on the
played.
field.
Now,
That is all the and
This
just
is, guys, that's
those are
yeah.
all the offensive
It's-
picks.
it's-
They actually
collectively,
drafted an
that's a
offensive
D-
lineman in
and
the
I'm being
7th round.
kind.
over
I mean,
here.
that's UFL stuff.
most drafts, 5th round and on, is special teams
It's a
guys, and
crapshoot.
guys that aren't
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be in the
yeah,
league.
yeah.
But,
Yeah,
those,
but
some of
still.
those 3rd and 4th, you have to hit on.
One last thing I wanted
yeah.
to say
You can't trade away all your firsts.
to Jay's comment about like building like the Eagles. I think that's more circumstance to build like the. If there were a quarterback the Browns loved, they wouldn't have waited for him.
Right.
No,
It
but
just
there wasn't, so they went to plan B,
yeah.
But here's
which I'm
the-
fine with.
But here's the thing about what the Eagles do.
Yeah.
Everybody told you that Jalen Hurts was not going to lead them to a doggone thing. You know what the Eagles did? They drafted a kid in the 2nd round,
Yeah.
developed him. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. That's what the Cleveland Browns. Drafting is great. But who the hell you developing?
Yeah, that's
when they
good
get
too.
into their system, who they developing?
That's fair.
These teams are developing people.
They are.
These teams are finding pieces and parts and fixing it, and they're using the whole entire spectrum. The Eagles just didn't draft defensive linemen and they showed up one day and were good. The Eagles got some of the best secondary in the game. They keep a secondary. Ask Tyvis.
Yeah.
They got a running back. They're balanced. They got people everywhere. The Cleveland Browns, what I'm asking for is at some point in time, we get these picks and how we got them, next year, whatever you want to use them on, you're going to have to hit on somebody and you're going to have to develop them.
That's true.
The Eagles did really turn it around when they traded down. Now, they took Devontae Smith. They got a 1st-round pick the next year. They used one of those 1st-round picks to trade for A.J. Brown, and that kind of really got their offense
It's
going.
really smart, but you have to hit on
You
the
have to
pick.
hit.
And
You
one
have to
thing
hit.
real quick, when you talk about 1-31, what happened with 1-31 was they tore that roster all the way down to the studs, and they got rid of anybody who could actually play football. And they did that intentionally for 2 years, and it was the worst dark period in recent Browns history. There's no need for them to do that again. They shouldn't have done it that time, quite frankly. That's not what I'm advocating for. I don't think anybody is. The difference is the Browns haven't really tried to like rebuild. We act like they do it all the time. They've been trying to win since 2018. They haven't
Very
done a
much
great
so.
job at it.
Yeah.
But they've been trying to win for the last 7 years.
That's on them.
And they got one playoff win out of it. But it's not like they're constantly doing this. They're really not. They did for a while, and we have so many scars and so much PTSD from it that it feels like they do it every year. But they don't.
Yeah.
But now is the time to do that. Because there was no quarterback worth taking. The entire league told you, we don't like these guys. So they have set themselves up to have a seat at the table next year. Now, are they going to go in on the wrong hand and lose everything again?
They could.
They could.
That's their
But
history.
they at least now have a seat at the table.
The thing I talk about, and I get it, they tore it down to the studs, but listen, you got to understand, bro, people have been waiting. You know how many people that sat on these same seats and had the same jobs
Yes.
we had and said the same thing to the same people, talk about wait till next year, it's
Yeah.
going to be better. People ain't got no time for that no more. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. Like, no one's trying to hear, no one's jumping for joy because they got a stadium and they think they got some people on the board next year that could be good. People worried about 3-14 this year, and they worried about the fact that people are selling us Kenny Pickett. I don't want to be sitting here next year with 41-year-old Joe Flacco and the retread Kenny Pickett from the Steelers who kicked him to the curb, and now that's our guy? How do you sell that to your fan base?
It's hard. The reality, though, is, and it sucks, if fans don't want to lose. They don't want to think about it's smart to lose.
Of course not.
But the reality is there was probably no scenario this year where the Browns were going to be a legitimate contender.
Who cares?
I didn't see it.
I'm just saying.
Listen,
The worst place to be in the NFL is pick 16th
Right.
every year. Ask the Steelers.
Hey, look, man.
They win.
We say that right now.
Yeah.
The worst place to be is 3-14 at the end of the year when you've been talking about this team that is supposed to be on the trajectory.
Yeah.
It's not.
Listen, I've had that experience with Andy Dalton. The Bengals
Yeah,
went to
you
the
guys made
playoffs
it every year
7
and then
years in a
lost.
row.
Yeah.
And the first few years of that run, it was fun.
Sure. Then it
After a
gets
few
old.
years,
No, hey,
Go ask Steeler fans where they are right now.
Yeah, exactly.
nah.
But I did. You enjoy the first few years of that.
Of course
run.
you do,
Yeah.
because especially when you haven't had it in a
Yeah.
long time, and the Bengals didn't.
Yes.
So to put a bow on this before we look at some day 2 picks, they passed up on the opportunity to draft Travis Hunter. Will Travis Hunter haunt the Browns for the next decade?
Might.
Jay,
He
you think
might.
so?
He might. If I had to put all my chips in the middle of the table right now, haunt would be like a lot of people when they talk about Julio Jones, he haunted us. It was terrible. Julio Jones. Okay, it was a miss. I would have rather had Julio Jones, but I don't feel like he's going to be Jamari Chase. I don't.
In the end, and this is a big if, no matter how great he is, if this trade ultimately leads them to getting their quarterback, it was the right
Right,
move.
but
Yes.
size-wise, how big's Jamar? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know, but he's
bigger.
Bigger than Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my concern, and I've said it on this show many times, my concern on this show was his size. Now, that doesn't
Lamar's
mean he
listed at
can't be a great
He's
receiver.
listed at 6', 205.
He plays bigger than 6
He
foot
feels
205.
way bigger
He
than
feels way bigger.
Yeah,
Now,
wow.
that's what he's, if they list him at 6 foot, they're not shaving inches off of him.
Yeah.
So that must be what he is. He just plays bigger than that to me. My fear was that Hunter, especially for a guy who's insisting that he plays both ways, how long can you do that in the NFL? It's a grown man league. This isn't kiddie football
I
anymore.
had no concerns about him at all personally, but again, if it leads to the quarterback, it was worth it. If it doesn't, it wasn't.
You're
That's
right.
how it is to me.
So it's too early to answer that.
They don't have Travis Hunter. I don't care how much we jump up and down. Travis Hunter not coming through the door. They didn't draft him. But I will say this. One of the things that I think was a big deterrent on them drafting Travis Hunter is because the Cleveland Browns have never had a track record of getting playmakers anything. The Cleveland Browns have not had a track record of being creative enough to get guys the football, and I don't think they wanted the pressure of saying we have to get Travis Hunter the ball. I don't think they wanted it. I think they didn't want they have the plan in force. They didn't want a quarterback that they say we got pressure to play him. And that's what would have happened if you would have drafted anywhere in the first round and moved back in. And also, if it was Travis Hunter, I think you would have. Ask yourself this: Kevin Stefanski, after every single game, would have had to ask. Travis Hunter got 4 catches. Don't you give him the ball more? Travis Hunter only played twice on defense.
Sure.
Do you think
you can't hide a star wide receiver like you can a defensive
I don't
tackle.
believe that they didn't draft him for that reason, but
I don't either.
Jason, let me ask you this, because someone brought this up to me yesterday, and I thought, man, that's a valid point. I'll ask around. Did Travis Hunter hurt himself when he came out with his comments of, don't draft me if you're not planning on playing me both sides of the ball? The reason I ask that is it's from a person that's been in the league for years.
Yeah.
And his assertion was teams never like to feel like they're being dictated to. Even if they might agree with the player, out front to the public, they want to make it look like we're doing this and this is our decision. They don't want to have to explain later, well, he wanted to do it, so we let him do it.
No, I don't think that
You don't think he hurt himself at all with
No.
the Browns?
He went 2.
No, I'm saying with the
think
Browns.
I think
I
the
mean-
Browns would have used him. I think they wanted to use him.
Both ways.
Yeah.
How long can a player do that in the NFL?
I don't know.
There's a reason it's never
who
been done.
knows? Maybe teams have just been too gutless to try it.
I said yesterday, he's not going to be 32 and doing this.
No,
But
absolutely not.
But if you get 3-4 years out of him, 2-3 years out of it.
The next question then, if you get 3 or 4 years out of him, is that really like 6 years?
Well, I think.
And does he age quicker? Because
aren't you just saying you only get 3-4 years of him doing both,
and then he's got to pick one?
Yes,
yeah,
and okay, now to that point, it's like when a catcher decides he's going to move to first base, but he's caught for 12 years. Typically, those experiments work for a year or two, but what happens is you age your body at a different rate when you're catching 140 games a year.
Yeah,
and the reason I bring that up is because if he really does plan on playing both ways all the time, then does that mean after his rookie year, in dog years, his NFL years, that's 2 seasons?
Hey, if he plays,
he's taking all those hits.
If he plays 8 years, that's 7 more than the Browns typically get.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, if he plays 8 instead of 12, that's still
but you know what?
more.
If you can give me 14 with an elite wide receiver, sign me up for that.
Yeah, but
all
you
day,
get 14.
anything.
You don't
Give
get
me
14.
10. Give me 10. I'm thinking Jerry Rice.
They got
I want
a chance
Jerry
tonight
Rice.
to draft some guys who could be wearing a Cleveland Brown
14.
uniform.
Yeah, 14. He's 20 years old, 21 years old. I've seen wide receivers play in the NFL and do very well at 35 years old. It's not the rule.
Very rare.
But he's not going to get there playing both sides of the ball.
I'd rather have him be great 2 ways for 8 years than be great one way for 12.
I'll make this proclamation.
Yeah.
He will not be great both ways for 8 years. Put that in the time capsule.
I just saved it. We will come back to it.
2033, he's going to be great both sides of the ball.
2033.
No.
All right, guys, let's talk about some of the potential day 2 picks the Browns can make after a quick word from Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor's ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your supply chain is easier, managing logistics is easier, responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com. The Browns have 4 picks tonight. Number 33.
Let that sink in for a second. We'll take it on the screen and you can see it. 4 picks.
For right now.
Yeah, I haven't ruled out that they're going to move some.
2 of the first 4 picks, at least scheduled, 33 and 36. They also pick at 67 and 94 here in the 4th round. I just want to give you guys a little list. I took ESPN's best available players for the second day of the draft. And if you want to take 272 here, but the best available players according to ESPN: Will Johnson, Mike Green, Nick Emanwari, Donovan Ezeraku, Darius Alexander, Travion Henderson. I have position by position specific.
The first 2 guys there, Mike, a lot of people thought were going to be in first-round picks.
They fell dramatically.
Now, that Mike Green guy from Marshall, right? He's from Marshall?
He's from Marshall.
There's character concerns with him.
There are.
Yes. And listen, I know he's a really talented player. The only reason I know about him is because they were talking about the Bengals maybe drafting him at 17.
Right.
And I'm just worried. Like, the Browns have taken a lot of character concerning guys lately. It's tricky. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to take a defensive lineman again, but, you never know.
So what's your ideal haul tonight? They have 4 picks. Let's go pick by pick. What's your ideal haul for the Browns in round 2?
First and foremost, you still can get Shedeur Sanders and you still can get Jalen Milroe, first and foremost. That doesn't prohibit you from looking at a quarterback next year. That don't prohibit you from doing nothing. You need multiple quarterbacks, right? Tyler Shuck is there. Jalen Milroe is there. You got guys, Quig Ewers, Kyle McCord. Listen, the Browns have to have I'm drafting a quarterback in this draft. It is what it is. If Golden Boy comes out and you got enough picks to go get him too. That does not prohibit you from doing it. Second-round picks is minimosky on the money, and you can move on from like that. Anyways, I'm going to get me a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is there. Jalen Milroe is there. Now you have a quarterback that you can develop and do something with. Now let's get to these running backs. The running back list, I'm sure you got it. You got Travion Henderson, Junkins, Caleb Johnson I like a lot. Listen, Dylan Sampson I like a lot. All these running backs are worthy of a second-round pick. You give me a running back, I'm cool with it. So say, for instance, you draft Milroe. I got something exciting to talk about. We can use him in a package, and you can play him a little bit now. You give me a Travion Henderson, the number 1 running back on the board. Now you got a stalwart back. You got a back you're going to get a ball to, and now I'm more excited. Then you get to them 3rd-round picks. Guess what I need to get? I need a tight end. Where's the tight end list, McNuggets? There we go. I like a Royal right here out of Miami. He's a monster. He can get down the field. It reminds me of a young Jimmy Graham. I like Mason Taylor as well. Terrence Ferguson is another big target. These guys, Harold Fannin Jr. is available. You got one of those. Oh, and by the way, listen, let me get one of these. Listen, let me give me an offensive lineman. Give me a best available for the offensive lineman. Listen, I like Belton. I like Cameron Williams. I like the kid from Minnesota. You still can get one of those dudes, best available tackle on the board, and I'm excited. You have your D tackle, but here's the thing too. I wouldn't be mad if it was Luther Burden. If it was Luther Burden, I'd take him as well.
Guys, I think we've learned once again it's hard to predict what the Browns are going to do. They're a very hard team to predict. They do. I'll give them credit. They do a good job of keeping quiet. You know, these things don't get out very easily from the Browns.
That
in this new era, the Browns used to be terrible at that.
Right.
They would let everything out. There's 2 things I think I know today.
Yeah.
One, the Browns will not draft at 33. I'd be shocked if they don't trade down.
The last 3 years.
I will be shocked.
The last 3 years.
33
has been traded.
Think about this. There were 3 or 4 trades at the back end of the first round.
There were.
The Giants traded up.
After a relatively quiet first round.
Right. The Falcons gave up a first-round pick next year to take a defensive lineman at 27. I couldn't believe that.
That was as much crazy juice as Jacksonville.
That was insane.
Well, I mean, look what they did last year with Penix. Like, after signing Kirk Cousins. And they were high-fiving in their draft room.
I can understand if you want to trade down. You traded the number 2 overall pick. Cool. Yeah. But to me, trading the 2nd pick in this round completely says we ain't trying to do nothing.
Well, I think they'll use the 36th pick.
36 allows
maybe why they went and got
right. That's
36 allows you to move 33
because if they
want.
Exactly right.
My question is this: if there are great players right here available to take
them.
Take them.
Yeah. What they might be thinking, G, because you made a great point. When you look at that list of running backs, as much as I want Travion Henderson, if I don't get him, I'm getting a really good one if I want in the 3rd round.
Right.
There's depth there.
You can get you can build your ship as you're moving towards a broader goal. That's what I'm trying to say here. If you want the quarterback and that's the shiny thing that you want, you can do things along the way to not only play better this year, but also help said quarterback in years to set up. Yeah. How great would it be if you had a receiver that you found in the 2nd round that's really good?
Right, but anybody like that they could get at 36 instead. You're saying they could take 2 of those guys potentially.
I could get at 33 and 36. I could get 2 starters.
Right, but you may be right. I'm saying the Browns. They showed you their hand yesterday. They told you it's all about next year, whether you like it or not.
But that's the wildest thing I've ever heard is that you're not gonna pick regular positions because it's all about next year.
No, they are. But what I think they're gonna do for 33, they will get a 2nd round pick next year, maybe even a 1st next year. Maybe they'll get a 3rd first.
But if you drop the 33 to 41 and pick up a 2 next year or even a 3
now
next
you have 4 picks in the top 2 rounds.
If you still have 36 and 40, I'm just throwing out 41.
Yeah.
It's not like they're gonna go from 33 out of the 2nd round.
But
you just drop down.
All I'm saying is,
and get something else.
All I'm saying is, when guys keep saying we don't need, we actually we got more than one need to fill. We say it all the time. We got more than one hole. We got quarterback, all these other holes. If I'm sitting here and I'm looking at these players and I'm looking at them like that's a starter, you potentially could come away with 3 starters with these picks. The 2 2s and
right, but if you drop from 33 to 41, same thing. You're still will.
If you're smart, you can get them in the 3rd round.
If you can get them in the 3rd round, that sounds great. What I want the Cleveland Browns to do is get players, take them, and develop. All this pick stuff next year, that may sound good for DePodesta because then you're kicking the can and saying, oh, we trust them to show up next year and to pick the right people.
Yeah, you're right. Well, next year it might be a different general manager.
But at this point, if they were to drop, as Jason suggested, 8 spots, if they have 36 and 41 instead of 33 and 36 and another 2nd round next year, that I think makes sense. And I was against trading down from 2, but at this point, The general consensus is that there's no great difference between the 30th and 45th player. So,
No.
And I don't care about the names.
Yeah.
Right. Like, there's a lot of good players there.
Yeah.
They need to address the offense, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next 3 picks should all be offensive players.
And I think they will
And it
be.
doesn't have to be quarterback, frankly.
I don't think they're going to take a quarterback in the second round. I'll be shocked.
I think Jalen Milroe is different than the other guys because Jalen has we said this last night. I said
It's something you can't coach.
there is a specific elite skill set that he has that you can use in packages, whether he's your franchise quarterback or not.
Right.
3rd and 2, you can bring Jalen Milroe in and get really creative with him, and you're not committing him to be the long-term
Right, but
quarterback.
Jason-
you're not doing that with
Yeah.
Shedeur or Tyler Shook or any of these other guys.
But if you, let's say it happens and they actually get their franchise quarterback next year, you're not pulling him out all the time.
No, of course not.
You know,
but that's what I'm saying. Give me a tackle, a receiver, and a running back with the next 3 picks. I'm good with that.
I'd be great
Jason, I'm
with
gonna
that.
put the list
I also
up,
wouldn't mind a tight end.
I'm going to put the list up of playmakers. We'll take the quarterbacks out, but start 2, 6, 8. Let's just go over the names on these lists. Pick one or two that you like. G kind of went through this when he was doing.
I mean, either one of those Ohio State running backs would be great at 33
give me
or
Trevion
36.
Henderson.
I would
these
love
guys
that.
are all supposed to be excellent players.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
we're good with these guys.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, at any point.
You know what? Any of those names, if we end up with any of those names on
Yeah.
our roster for next season, I'm okay
I
with
mean,
it.
Trevion Henderson's a home run.
He's my
And
he's
the
my
only
dream
reason
pick.
that I haven't talked about him at this point is because I didn't think they'd have the extra pick. I didn't think it was realistic that they would have any shot at getting them.
Right.
Now they do.
Yeah.
All right, so then let's go to receivers. These are some of the
I don't know these receivers. I know
I don't either.
Luther
Nobody
Burden
excites
people
me.
really
Bird's
like
the biggest
him.
name,
Yeah.
I think of all of them. But I mean, whatever. Just give me a playmaker.
I don't know.
I don't care about the names right now. For me, right now, it's more about the positions.
Can I ask you a question about organization? You probably won't be able to answer this because no one can, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. Everybody's saying that this is it for Andrew Berry. He's got to nail it, or this is his last draft.
I disagree with that.
Well, I know you do, but a
Yeah.
lot of other people that are covering the league believe firmly that this is it. This is his. And God, you run through his list of offensive players that he's drafted. It's abysmal.
Oh, it is.
And the thought that you would give him 2 more years is intriguing, if nothing else. Let me ask you this though: how much blame? I'm trying to figure out how this organization moves. I think perhaps the bigger problem that no one is addressing here is Paul DePodesta. How much input has Paul had on Andrew's draft picks? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, he's driving the bus.
I have no idea. Nobody knows. I have no idea. But here's where I would say I would disagree with. If you were GMing for your job, you don't trade from 2 to 5 and pick up a 1 next year.
Well, that might have been out of his control. That's what I'm saying. Paul DePodesta may have been driving that.
No, I don't.
I just don't know.
I think.
It feels like a DePodesta move to me.
Well, no, I think this is a Berry move. I mean, according to the story that Mike wrote, and I'll try and dig on that and find more, it was Gladstone and Berry on the phone together.
Right.
Now.
Well, no, I know that. I know. Look, I think he's empowered to make the move. I think it's just my guess because it's all we have. We just don't know how this organization moves. And to me, that is problematic. You know why? Because nobody has to wear the blame hat.
These were not. Last night was not moves made by a front office that feels like it's in trouble. You don't go from 2 to 5 and draft a defensive tackle. And
Here's my point, though. I think you're helping make my point. If Andrew Berry is making all these... Look, if I'm in Andrew Berry's shoes, whether the conventional wisdom is that I'm coming back next year or not, I am GMing for my life. This year. I'm not thinking about next year. You might not get next year. There's no guarantee he's going to get it. Now, if I'm Paul DePodesta and I've survived one tsunami after another and I'm Teflon, I'm telling my GM, look, it's all about picks. And the GM might be going to bed at night going, no, it's not. It's about getting players so I can save my job. G's philosophy. But if Paul DePodesta is in charge and driving the bus on not picking the actual players, but what position we should take here, and let's make this trade to get more capital.
I just don't think there's any reason to believe that.
Yeah, I think this was a Berry. I think it was a Berry decision.
Jay, there could be
Just
a
make
guy,
Paul the GM then.
There could be a guy like that on every
or change him out.
Hey, listen, man.
He's the only guy that's been steady through all this.
I'm telling you right now, if the Browns they get 3-4 wins again, what's going to happen is
I think everybody's going to go.
They're going to have to sacrifice somebody. That's what it is. You can't win 3 games
and who is
back
that
to back,
somebody going to be?
And that's going to be Andrew Berry.
They're going to think.
Because we've already when you ask the question, they say who wanted Deshaun Watson? What's what they say? Andrew Berry was the first one, right? When you talk about that, when you talk about his role, and when you talk about his picks, We didn't even get to the defensive picks. His picks on defense were terrible. But when you look at Kevin Stefanski, he got 2 coaches of the year, right? So, like, if there's a guy on the outs, he could be picking this, and it was nice and cute. He got the first-round pick next year. But the reality of the situation, if they win 4 games, they're going to need to sacrifice somebody.
I'll tell you right now, this is not going to 3-win team next year. I think there was a lot of factors that went. That shouldn't have been a 3-win team last year.
No way.
And I think blowing up the offense, obviously the injury, there was just a ton of factors that went into why it unraveled the way that it did. Going back to the type of scheme that this roster had been built for, this offensive line had been built for, if they get a couple playmakers today, this is not going to be a 3-win team. I don't think it's a 9 or 10-win team. But again, I think they're going to win just enough to where they were going to be out of position.
And
possibly.
show improvement.
Well, we'll see. I mean, right on paper, right now they have the worst offense in the league.
But we got a long ways to go.
Okay, well, it's hard to get out of the basement with 2nd and 3rd round picks.
And listen, you said the worst offense in the league.
Yeah.
And we're advocating moving down to get worse players. Here's what I'm saying. Listen, trust me. Listen, all that analytics, at my heart, I'm a football player, right? And what football players do, we talk about what happens on the field. And when you get people in that locker room and you get Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and all these other dudes, or whatever the case may be, they're not talking about no draft picks and all that.
They don't care about the draft.
They're like, listen, I'm out here playing my prime out.
Give you guys to help me win right
Yes.
Right now, that's what they want.
Yes.
And so my thing is, it does an injustice. I cannot sit here and talk about the fairy tales of businessmen when this is the game. Are you getting better or are you not getting better? And are you getting players? You made your move, you got your picks. Don't get cute again. Just get some players and let's roll out.
The reality is they are trying to dig out of the biggest mistake they've ever made.
Maybe the biggest one made in league history.
And you can only do that with players. You can have all the picks. It's about what you do with the picks. And he has
But
no
you have
track
to have
record.
the picks to get the players.
I got it. They got them now. They have them. They got it right.
Yeah.
They
have the capital now
They got
to
the capital.
I do think Jason is right. And now Jimmy could always change his mind, but I do think Jason is right. The Browns are handling this draft as if they don't have job insecurity. That's how Andrew Berry handled
Now
this
you're
draft.
also putting a lot of faith in the owner. I've said this
Right, who
multiple
could
times.
clearly change his mind.
2 weeks
which
from now,
by the way,
2
he
weeks from now, he
hasn't
gets
earned.
emotional and gets reactionary.
Yeah.
And fires.
But he has shown a surprising amount of patience with this group.
He has.
As opposed to what he did in the past when he never did that.
He's shown a lot of patience
has.
with Paul DePodesta.
Before we move on, G gave us his scenario. Just let's put a prediction on it with the first pick they make today. Whether that's 33, 36, if they trade back to 34, 35, whatever. With their first pick today, what position do you anticipate and predict the Browns will go with their first pick in round 2?
I think they do trade the 33. I think they take Travion Henderson if he's there at 36.
G?
You said what they do, what they do, or what are they going to do?
What's your prediction for what they will do with their first pick? Whether it's 33 or 36, give me a position or a name, however you want to do it, but put it on the record. Your prediction for their first pick tonight.
Man,
I'm trying to see if everyone has a consensus here on something.
Yeah,
but I'll
Jay
get to
or
that at the end.
Bull, do you guys have an idea?
I would draft Jalen Milroe.
No, but is that what you think they're going to do, though?
What are you predicting they will do
They'll
tonight?
probably, I don't know, they might draft a defensive lineman. I don't know. I think they might trade the pick. I mean,
I think they're going to draft. I think they're going to draft an offensive lineman with their first pick in the second
They're
round.
going to trade 33 and they're going to draft an offensive lineman.
I would not
a
hate
tackle
that.
at 36.
The kid from North Carolina, was it NC State?
Because the running backs, I do think they'll take
Because
a running
there's
back.
so-
has
the
a
running
big
backs are
offensive
so
line.
deep.
That's right.
They
That's
can
what
get
I
They can
think.
get a running back at 67.
There's so much quality depth at running back that they're going to say these other positions there's not as much good depth. We can get a good running back later in the second round or in the third round.
You know what my question is on the depth, because that's a fair point. My
Yeah.
question on the running back situation is this. They all look the same. For a while, that's what the league was. They operated under the premise that all running backs are created equal or close. And then we saw what the Eagles did last year. And we know that, where was Andrew Berry cutting his football chops? Under Howie Roseman.
Philly.
If you believe that 95% of them do look alike, but the elite can take you to the next level, particularly in today's NFL, as the Eagles proved last year, if that's the case and you buy into that philosophy and you think that one of those running backs is that guy, is head and shoulders from everybody else, then you're better off making that move.
Sure.
And getting the player that you think, if they all grade out at 96, 94, 95, 94, 93, but if you got one at 95 and then everybody else is at 88, 87, go for 95.
That's where the prize is made. Blanket saying like, these guys are all good. I don't really care the numbers.
Get the great one.
No.
Get the great one.
There is somebody in the lab somewhere on a board saying, I'm staking my joint on this guy because this guy is going to be the deal.
I think a lot of teams would argue you need a great left tackle more than you need a great running back to win.
Well, I've always said left tackle is the second most important position.
Before Saquon Barkley, who's the great running back that won a Super Bowl? It's been a while.
No, but as we say, it's like everything cycles around in the
Barkley
NFL,
was
and
the last
right
piece
now,
they dropped into it.
Right, but they had a great team.
They're solid top to bottom. That's the one thing, I said, their blueprint is they built from the inside out. Yes, they've got great skills players.
The Browns don't have the inside built yet.
No, they don't. Not yet.
They don't have anything built
and they're
yet.
not going to build it in this draft. Like, they've got so many holes. The offensive line is old and injured. Like, you're not going to fix that with one pick, but you're going to take a step towards getting better.
There may be, by the time the Browns are a legit contender, there's probably nobody on their current offensive line that's going to be part of the team. Maybe DeJuan Jones if he can stay healthy, but that's it.
Yeah.
So you said running back.
I think running back. I think that Henderson is better than everybody else.
No, I don't think. I said I would do that. I don't think.
What do you think
they'll
they're going to do?
He said defensive line.
They might draft. They might draft that dude from. I'm not the dude from Marshall.
They're going to take an offensive lineman. I feel
think
confident in that.
So Bull and I are in agreement on
I'd love if they could get Green and he can be a good citizen. That's one of those that you look back. Remember, Warren Sapp slipped on draft day 10, 12, 15.
He went 12th, looked up last night. But the Browns,
because of the marijuana issue.
Bad character guys.
Yeah. Going back to Mason Graham, by the way, we talked a lot about drafting Travis Hunter. One of the positives of Hunter, extremely high character.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mason Graham. High character guy. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So that's a real positive with that pick.
We're going to talk more drafts and whether or not the Browns can afford to pass on Shedeur Sanders twice in the same draft on our WKYC show coming up at 12:30. If you don't live in Cleveland or the greater Northeast Ohio area, you can download the WKYC Plus app and get the show there. We're going to pivot.
I have a problem with that question for the record, Mike.
Fine. You can address it on the TV show.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk a little Evan Mobley winning DPOY after a quick word from Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, all on your Fire TV. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select gaming devices, including the Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Jason, Evan Mobley is your 2025 NBA Defensive Player of the Year. It kicks up his contract portions by a significant margin. The financials we'll talk about later. But for a guy like Evan Mobley, who is pretty humble, not necessarily a braggadocious guy, he lets other people talk him up. How much confidence can he gain from winning an award like this, the highest defensive award given across the league?
Honestly, I don't think he needed that for any more confidence. I think the way he's played this year has solidified in his mind that he belongs. Certainly, it's a great accomplishment. He's worthy of it. He deserves it. You and I have talked about this at length. I thought he was the right pick. I thought he should have won it after Wemby went down. But I just think that we've seen so much growth and maturation out of him over the last year. I don't think he needed this award to feel like he's arrived. You mentioned the financials. It is a big deal. We can talk about that later if you don't want me to get into it now. The Cavs are going to have some decisions to make now. With
this
their
is
cap
ridiculous. Sorry to cut you off, Jason.
It's the way it is.
This rule, this is to me, honestly, good for him. I don't really care. These awards are meaningless to me. Good for him. But this is the egregious thing.
If Wemby doesn't get hurt, he's not in line for it.
But the team is penalized, which is stupid.
The team's only penalized because of the timing of it, because he signed a max contract that starts next year, and one of the kickers is Defensive Player of the Year. He gets it. He gets so I think his starting salary next year is
I have the numbers.
$46
you
million.
want the numbers?
It's an $8 million increase, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah. Next year it's an $8 million.
Yeah.
In 26, 27, it's a $9 million. In
Nah, it's still
27,
really
28,
$8, but whatever.
9,
It don't
whatever.
matter. It's
ends
about
up being $45 million over
It's
the
a
course of
$45
the
million.
5 years.
That's a lot of money.
It's crazy. The league,
But the reason-
that money shouldn't count towards the cap.
Well, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But the reality is, with the position that the Cavs are in, they're now well into the second apron.
So does it not
starting
matter?
next year. So it just comes down to, like,
Shrinks their window.
I was actually talking to somebody this morning about
Yeah.
this and what, I mean, maybe they move off. If it all depends if they want to be a second apron team or not. If it doesn't, and being a second apron team really restricts what they can do.
What's your gut on that? I don't think they do want to be a second apron team.
I think that they're going to be a second apron team.
Is
They're a
Ty
second apron
Jerome
team
going to
now.
re-sign? Is he going to take less money to stay, which he should? Even though
Which he should. No, he shouldn't. He
Well,
should get every
it's easy
dollar.
for me to say. If
Yeah.
I were him, I would.
This
I
is
would
his one shot in life, man.
Yeah.
He's got to get every dollar he
Hold
can
on,
get.
this
That's
is not
true.
a
God
Ty
forbid
Jerome
you could survive on
conversation.
$13 million a year.
But I mean, they could try and move on from Okoro. I
Yeah.
don't think he has any value.
Who would take him?
Dean Wade doesn't have a full guaranteed deal. They can save
Okay.
a couple million there. So it really comes down to: are you trying to stay in the second apron, or are you trying to get out of the second apron? If they don't care about paying second apron price next year, then they can run this thing back. The tie piece is to be determined, but they can run this back. They'll be in the second apron. It really restricts what they can do. But this is a relatively whole roster now.
Yeah, that's true.
How much would winning the championship this year change that thinking?
Oh, that would probably be huge, right?
Boy, that's a good question. If they won it this year, I think there would be, because I honestly, I think that they would look to get out of it then.
Yeah, I do too.
But once you get there and
Yeah.
once you get that
Because
ring,
it's about climbing the mountain, and then the question is, when you've gotten there, how important is it to you that you stay there? I think Dan Gilbert, if he wins one without LeBron James, I'm not going to say he's going to fold tent and go home. That's a lifetime
That's his
achievement
ultimate
award.
accomplishment.
That is bigger than his first.
And it's not about the money. It's not about the
No.
money. He'll write any check. It's about the hammers and the levers that it takes from you.
Sure.
Being in the second apron.
Guys. Like, why are we missing the point here, man?
Enlighten us, G.
We missing the point, man. The Cavs went through a dark spat where they didn't have nobody. LeBron was gone. They was losing all these games. They had no hope. They drafted somebody, and the kid is good. It's not about what the numbers are and what the cap and the ramifications if they win. The dude just won Defensive Player of the Year. Let's celebrate that.
Fair enough.
Let's
You're right.
celebrate the fact
just
that
did.
The pick was great.
That was a cap analysis. What I'm talking about
does he
is-
win if Wemby doesn't get hurt?
No.
But guess,
I don't think anybody thinks he
again,
does.
I'm going to take Evan Mobley. Let me give you your flowers. I don't give a damn about Wemby or nobody else. You play for the Cavs. You've been balling. Your team had the best record, and you're the Defensive Player of the Year. Look, we wanted these guys to blossom. We talked about the Cavs couldn't get to where they were. Jared Allen just came out and said we would not be where we are today without for Evan Mobley. He's now spreading his wings and is rising offensively. He then stepped it up defensively, and now he's a Defensive Player of the Year. These sorts of things matter because it builds your organizational culture. You're saying that, guys, we believe in defense. Guys, we believe in this is the way we want to play basketball. And we have a guy who we can say that they drafted, developed, became an all-star this year, and now is the Defensive Player of the Year playing on a team that's looking for a championship. I'm enjoying the ride. I love the fact that he got his flowers, and I love the fact that the city of Cleveland can say, we got Evan Mobley, and we got something too. It ain't just about the Celtics or LeBron and the Lakers or Luka. We got something here, and I love the fact that you can put that on your mantle. This is something that could put you when it comes time for Hall of Fame, Bull. They don't say, well, I don't care about that in $40 million. They say he was Defensive Player of the Year this year, and he was an all-star.
Yeah.
That's why it's important.
That is
All
a
right,
good
good
point,
point.
and we did overlook it. I will say, though, to Bull's point, Jason, I know you backed it up, I don't see a world where it's fair that the team and ultimately the fans are going to be punished because of that.
It's stupid.
And so I think that money should just be exempt from the
That's right.
cap.
Yeah.
It's because ultimately, if we lose sight of this, any business will tell you it's all about the customer. Without the customer, we don't exist. And we can say that without the viewer, we're not here. With the Cavs, without their customers, they don't exist. And so why should the fans now have to pay a price that maybe the owner isn't willing to pay, and we ultimately might lose this guy because of it, or lose other
No, they
players.
won't lose him,
Not
but
lose him, but
yeah.
we could lose if Ty ends up going somewhere else because of this. We are punished for that. The league is missing the boat on this.
Teams shouldn't be penalized for their players being great.
Let the owner be penalized. Yeah, you have to pay more
fine,
money
the
now,
money, yes.
but don't penalize the fan.
Right, yes.
It's a very rare circumstance. The timing of it just hits.
Yeah.
As he is entering this new contract, and they negotiate it. Well,
Yeah.
it's
Good for him. He deserves it. He
I'm glad
deserves
for
more
him.
money.
Oh,
By the way, you say the team is set, and you're right. However, Ty Jerome, based on this year, would be a massive loss.
It's a massive piece.
We don't want to lose him.
No.
And they'll do everything they can to keep him. Ultimately,
Give him some cash. Dan's got to pay him some cash under the table. Come on, let's go. Come on, Dan.
Come over, clean my house, I'll give you $6 million.
Yeah,
Here's the thing
slide him
about
$6 million a
And
year.
the reason I asked the question, what if, and I know that's a big what if,
Yeah.
but in my view, and I know Dan's great, as far as a check writer, there's nobody better. But my biggest concern with all of this would be if they do win a championship this year, I think it becomes easier for Dan to say,
You know what, Jay? That would be a good problem to have to worry about.
I wouldn't mind that problem, but you know what? You get greedy when you win
That's
one.
true, you do.
You win one, and you're like, hey, we should win it again next year.
Yeah, that's true. Fair.
So I just don't think that the fans ultimately should have to pay the price.
No.
Because one of your players won an award.
Did what you want him to do.
Yeah, did what you wanted him to do. And Jay's right. I think it is a rare situation, but in those rare situations, there should be exemptions. The team shouldn't have to be penalized.
The league should change that rule that all that extra, like if a player gets bumped up for success, that money should not count towards the cap.
But you know why they won't do it is because they have spent the last 2 years trying to hammer the Ballmers and the Gilberts and the Lacobs because they could just write checks and they'll just spend and spend and spend.
And they don't want that.
The whole reason they have revamped the league the way that they have is to suppress those guys from being able to outspend everybody else.
Right,
buy
but
a championship.
This is not we want to build a super team. This is we already have a team. We shouldn't have to be penalized because our player. I don't know. You're probably right.
I'm on record.
But,
the owners made a terrible deal with the CBA.
Yeah.
It was
you said that.
Terrible
Yeah,
deal.
that's true.
I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah. Mikey,
All right, we got a ton of super chats. You want to get right into them?
go ahead.
All right, our super chats today are brought to us by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here. Game 3, Cavs Heat tomorrow afternoon, and FanDuel's giving customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. We had another crazy number of viewers watching today. We appreciate everyone who tuned into today's normal show. We appreciate everyone who tuned in last night. And we have a gajillion super chats, so I'm just going to knock these out. We'll stop if we have to. Salvatore the 216 says, Bull, I'm just busting your chops. I love you guys. I watch every day. Salvatore, we appreciate you. Ski Slope Logan says, they did it. They took a fat guy.
That is an ultimate clip. They did it.
Right.
That actually, like in the slow pan, that they did it. They took a fat guy. It's wild, bro.
BJ Brazy says, if they get Shador and Will Johnson, this is a great trade.
Oh, by the way, I forgot that he was still on the board. Give me that little corner. Like, I forgot. I'm changing my thing on that. I forgot Will Johnson was still in the corner. Dude from Michigan?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, listen.
So they go defense again and ignore the offense.
Well, they're not going to get rid of if they keep both picks, I'll take it. But I ain't trying to trade back.
I do think we need to get on the record, just so it's on the record. The Browns, as it turns out, had the opportunity to draft Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders.
And now we'll have an opportunity to draft Shador Sanders twice.
But I'm just saying,
And
they
they
could
won't do
have
it.
taken Travis Hunter last night and Shador Sanders
Yeah.
today. And
Both
they could
of
have
them.
paired them back up.
I remember a few
History
weeks ago we were like,
And then
that's
I would-
never going to happen.
And now, you know what's still a possibility?
Yeah.
So I would say you're right. 2 best offensive players on a 9-14.
Yeah.
You know what they still have the opportunity to do? Draft 2 of the best players on the best team in college football.
Yeah.
With Travion Henderson
Yeah.
and Will Howard if they wanted
now,
to.
listen, the worst night, listen.
So what do you want? Colorado's offense
I wouldn't
here?
call Will Howard the second best
If they
player on
pull
Ohio
up-
State.
No, I said,
If they
no,
pull
obviously
up
their receivers
with
the
Will
best.
Howard,
was such a
if they
reach.
pull
No,
up
what I said was
at
2 of
33
the
with
best
Will Howard,
on their offense.
Okay,
Take Will Howard.
You're not going to put
If-
Will Howard and 2 of the best players or
Jay,
among them
Jay,
on the offense?
Honestly, no.
Jay,
On Ohio State's offense?
Jeremiah
lost it.
Smith,
He's
Travion
gone.
Henderson,
He's
Quinshawn
gone.
Judkins,
Yeah.
Emeka Egbuka,
It
You're
clicked.
drunk.
He's
You're
gone.
drunk.
He's
You're
gone.
not paying attention.
It
What's the
clicked.
most important
Look, it
position in all of
clicked.
I
sports?
didn't say it's most
Thank you.
important.
Hey, by the
Thank
way,
you.
By the way,
It wasn't the most
if they
important.
take Will Howard today,
Yeah.
I need you to go live.
And if they,
No, I need
if
you
4
to-
years from now they're going to the playoffs with Will Howard,
You got to go live on your phone.
you shave your head.
Say what?
If they draft Will Howard and 4 years from now the Browns are in the playoffs with him as their
I'll do
quarterback,
it.
you shave your head,
All right.
but you keep it shaved for a full year.
Oh, I ain't doing that. Bro.
Clean shave, no hat.
Get your hands off me.
Listen, what do you want more than anything? You want the Browns to be in the playoffs.
Get your hands out of my pockets. Now, now listen.
How bad do you want this?
Hey, listen, will you go live if they draft Will Howard today?
Sure.
I want to go live from your cell phone.
100%.
I need it on Twitter and everything.
Well, I mean, there's going to be a. No. Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
But here's the caveat. I'm going to be. I got an audio guy coming to install a new home theater system in my house.
You see?
So he's going to be there too.
I got a brand new giraffe coming tomorrow. I can't even do it, dog.
No, I'm just saying he's going to be in the room with me.
That's
so
fine. That's cool.
Maybe we'll get his thoughts on it. Here's what I can assure you: they will not draft him. But the only reason I bring it up is because someone said, "Well, let the record show they had a chance to get two of the best offensive players on a 9-4 Colorado team in a weak conference."
It's the play. It's not 9-4. It's the two players. They could have had Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders,
who led
and paired
Colorado
them
to a
together.
9-4 record.
And Cleveland would have lost its mind.
Oh,
again.
they would have.
It would have been Manziel and Odell all over again.
Oh, what you mean?
And history will show if they
didn't
made
work.
a mistake or not. Well, history will show.
You're right.
We
You're
gotta
right.
get
If they made a
to Super
mistake or
Chats.
not.
Go ahead.
Josh says it feels like I got a savings bond for Christmas.
Yeah.
Steely says,
Good way to put it.
yesterday's show was a ton of fun. I appreciate everyone. Unfortunately, not the result we wanted, but hopefully, in the end, it all pans out. Mr. I Crappin' Shit says, we quarterback class need proof. The Steelers, with only Mason concaved cranium Rudolph, passed on the QBs in the first round, along with the Browns, who have Steelers cast off and an AARP card holder.
There were other teams that needed quarterbacks in the first round.
A lot
Saints.
of teams passed on quarterback.
Yeah, it wasn't just the Browns. and
Raiders.
Steelers. Yeah.
Ty 1015 says Andrew
Jets.
Berry needs to run up to the podium tonight and draft Mike Green immediately.
He's good. I wouldn't be salty. He's good. I listen.
But you'd have to hold your breath.
He's good, man.
Then at 36, if Will Johnson is still there,
So you'd have Mike Hall and Green in the same meeting room.
They got. See, this is why I don't mess with y'all reporters.
No, I'm pointing out a fact.
Jay get all the scanners. He be on the
Pointing out a
scanner.
fact.
Apparently, in Willoughby, someone's doing extra stuff.
I don't listen. The Browns have more than any organization.
Right.
How are the Cavs winning right now? I love the piece from Jared Allen. It was just like he put it all out there for us. They're winning with good community, character, great players. You can do it. And the Browns, if there's any team in town that goes the other way, it's the Browns. How's that worked out for us?
Yeah.
Mike from Columbus.
Well, we
said
had a parade for 0-16.
Yeah, we did.
We answered the first one in our last topic. Who do you want them to take in the second round? His other question is, do we think seeing that trade, that Stefanski and Andrew Berry know they have one more year after this one?
Yeah, we talked about that too.
Kind of ended it earlier. Yeah.
Yes, I think so. I know
Stefanski
Jason
does.
See,
Charles T said,
I'm gonna remember that when y'all are screaming "Fire Kevin" in October because it's coming.
hey, listen.
You two in particular, I know I'm gonna.
Well,
hear
no. What I said was
Fire
Stefanski
him!
thinks he has another year.
Hey,
I'm not saying he does. Listen, if it's 3-14, the whole building is fired, including
sure
Paul
about that.
DePodesta.
We can't do threes.
Mr. Teflon.
We can't
Charles
do three.
T says, if you're trying to dig out of the Watson hole, you draft an offensive playmaker, not a DT. The defense with some offensive support just went 11-6 in 2023.
That was a fraud.
Charles T also says we were top 10 in defensive
Really
line
happened.
stats 2024. We didn't need a defensive tackle. Ray Smith says, I'm afraid that if the Browns don't draft Will Howard, he'll become Big Ben 2.0 in Pittsburgh. And why exactly do the Browns keep trying to make Wolverine players work here? Name one, not name Leroy, who ever has.
Oh, wait. I actually have that list for you. DPJ, Zach Zinter, Chase Winovich, Jabril Peppers, Devin Bush, Steve Everett, Leroy Horde. That's just a smattering of the guys from Michigan
That's
that came
silly
here.
to-
A lot of those guys failed. Leroy was pretty good. Jabril, Chase Winovich.
A lot of those guys were late picks.
Jay got the gasoline.
No, but listen.
How do you have those names ready?
Because I did my homework. I said, how many players? First of all, we've drafted 19 Michigan players overall. That's a lot.
Douse the gas.
Fans being negative about Michigan players because it's Michigan is stupid.
I mean, we did have Braylon.
No, listen, it is what it is. You can't make a correlation there. Plenty of them were drafted early. Some of them were drafted late.
This is the greatest
When
Michigan
we drafted
troll of all
Jabril
time.
Peppers,
Yeah.
This is wild.
Browns
I
fan
still
base
got a
thought he
bunch
was going to be a hit.
Go ahead,
Still
Mike.
got a bunch more. Charles T said Brown should be swinging for the fences with high ceiling guys, Milroe and one of the top receivers running back. If Milroe develops, you're set. If he doesn't, now you have extra picks. Lance Kennedy
Yes.
says skill positions in the second. Give me Will Howard in the third.
He's there.
Topo42 says the draft is 90% luck, especially with quarterback. Let's not forget the Eagles missed big on Wentz.
I don't
They don't
agree with
have
that.
magic
90%
gurus.
luck?
90%.
Just luck.
Woo!
Browns
Holy
lack
cow.
luck.
Yeah, it's
Reggie
not
the
90%
Bug
luck.
Glover says no matter how you dice it up, every time you trade down, you pass up the opportunity to be good. Unless you develop these guys, having picks means nothing.
So no one's ever traded down with success?
Yeah, that's stupid.
No, they
that's
do,
ridiculous.
but they
Kevin
don't
Robinson.
make a habit of it.
Kevin Robinson
Philly just
says,
won the
G.
Super
Bush,
Bowl.
you literally name 5 players from each position that you like, so trade back and get more assets and still draft starters for this year. Sean Philpott says, the guy that saw something in Anthony Schwartz and traded the second for Elijah Moore are now telling us Travis Hunter was worth passing on. No team plans for failure and
Okay.
hopes for success better than the Browns.
That's kind of hard to wiggle out of.
We're
a
not
little
good at
bit.
wide receiver.
That's hard to wiggle out of. If I was his lawyer, I don't know what I would say. I would say just objection.
I still got 8 more.
Go.
I think Tyler
what
Bradshaw.
Browns?
I
I
think
don't know.
Browns
I don't know,
trade
dog.
33 for another haul. If they don't trade back, take Luther Burden and Henderson in round 2.
I like that.
Charles T says, just realized we could have drafted Hunter and Sanders and hope for a Chase Burrow situation. Goldilocks says, Mason Graham, though, shaking my head. I'm hurting with you, G. We could have had a flashy, dancing, shiny receiver, and we sold. Mr. I Crappin' Shit says, Sanders is equivalent to Manziel. Don't take him.
That's not fair.
Michael Mills says
That's
we should draft
a
quarterback
terrible
in round
comparison.
2. I got 2 more. Hold on, then we can relate to all
Yeah.
of them. Goldilocks
Baltimore
Gaming
number
says,
2.
I don't know what this is supposed to say. Bron James, we picked Graham for. I
Just
I
keep it moving.
Absolutely
Keep
no
it
idea
moving.
what that means, Goldilocks. And Chef Brian K says, hey Siri, can the Browns screw up the draft again today? Those are all the super chats.
Don't
Screw
Not
up.
screwed up.
Well, we'll find out if they screwed up. But
Give it a couple years.
You can't say right now they screwed up.
okay, but you can't say they didn't either.
No, that's what I said.
It's
at the
a
start of
get.
the show.
We don't know.
None of this makes any sense. We'll tell you in 2 years.
Unfair to compare Shador Sanders and Johnny Manziel. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Not even.
Hey man, give me some toys, man. We need toys round 2. I don't.
You'll get more socks and underwear and a robe and slippers, and you'll like it.
No, listen, look, Jason. You said you was gonna get me at least an Xbox.
He might get vouchers for slippers next year.
Listen,
That's what you might get.
He didn't already.
And
You
you'll
get a
like
robe
it.
and layaway. That's what you got.
They tried to layaway. I hate layaways.
We'll put $5 on it every week until we get your robe. Now
Man.
just be patient,
And then
son.
I'm like, listen, and I get up out of here. I done grew 3 inches since the last time.
Hey, that would have been a great headline
on
by the
Channel
way,
3.
on the Browns cover. If they trade more
Peace.
picks, the headline is layaway.